Welcome to the Wisdom Check by Tabletop to Keyboard. This is going to be our bi-weekly podcast where we discuss things such as Dungeons and Dragons. Actually, I think maybe we need to turn up my mic a little bit, guys. How about some more game?
More game. This is the Wisdom Check. This is the intro to end all intros. Talk about Dungeons, Dragons, and
Now, I don't think that's proper. This is a family show after all. This is the intro we can use, fellas. It's good, clean fun for everyone. Welcome to the Wisdom Check, where we have wholesome conversations about the dilemmas we face every day.
Nah, hold on a second. I got your intro right here. Yeah, that's better. Welcome to the Wisdom Check. Well, I'm right, Jeff's wrong. We're gonna have guests on to talk about it. It's gonna be awesome. Because I said so.
He is right. He did say so. I don't know. Is surf music the best music for a podcast about D&D?
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
This just in, nobody can agree on our intro for this podcast. So we're just going to start. Welcome to the Wisdom Check. Roll for initiative. Fuck. A 1. It's like every time.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Wisdom Check. As always, I am Jeff. I'm joined with my co-host over there on the far right, Dustin. And
Hey, everybody.
Hello. And in the middle, we are joined by Hope LaVelle. And she is awesome. She agreed to come on the show with us. Hello, Hope. And she does a lot of stuff. So she is an actress. She's a stunt performer. She's a filmmaker. She does motion capture performances. And she is part of D&D Beyond's Heroes of the Veil. So
actually, now we're called Beyond Heroes. Heroes of the Veil has ended.
Oh,
nice and wrapped up, and we kind of revamped the show, and it's now called Beyond Heroes, D&D Beyond.
Come on, Jeff. I just linked that episode today.
I am apparently
they rode
slacking.
dinosaurs, Jeff. They rode dinosaurs.
Oh my god, I missed that one. Okay, I need to go catch up on this apparently. So aside from me apparently bungling up the intro already, mark of quality here. We are ready to rock, talking to you about some interesting things, and we like to get into the usuals and figure out, how did you get started with gaming and what brought you in?
Okay, all right. So, how to make this story interesting? So I like to say that like D&D kind of runs in my blood because my dad, before I was born, used to run like 24-hour long campaigns. Like non-stop campaigning with his friends, and then my brother, like I used to watch him play, and I remember thinking, well, how do they know what's happening? Like, how do they know what's gonna happen next? And like I would watch in amazement. I was like, I just don't get it. What's going on? And it wasn't until I think my early days of high school where I found like a group of friends, and they were like, you gotta try this game, it's called D&D. And I'm like, yeah, I know of it. And we it was 3.5, and we just started playing. We fell in love with it and became like a bi-weekly thing. It was great.
Man, those are the days.
So you started in with what is thought of as like the hardest edition. The 3.5 days was
Really?
lots of math and lots of extra. Yeah, I mean there was a lot to it, more so than second ed or.
You would spend like 2 sessions just building your characters.
Yeah, pretty much. It could really be that if you were gonna session zero it out with people. Yeah, you could spend 2 sessions just building.
Yeah, no shortage of time tinkering. That's, for all of its negatives, that I did enjoy a lot of that. That's probably why I'm into the Pathfinder situation. I like the little tinkering and under the hood kind of stuff a little bit here and there. But
yeah, I played Pathfinder like a year ago, and I just remember thinking like, oh my god, it's like it feels like the old school D&D again. After you played 5e for so long, you're just like, I forgot about these things.
So did you skip 4th ed?
I did. That was like when I went off to like school, and I didn't really have time to play, so I missed fourth completely.
Oh,
Good
wow.
excuse.
Yeah, right.
Good
Right.
excuse.
Well, that is pretty fascinating, though. Getting kind of like that family lineage, kind of bringing into gaming, and having everyone around you as being a gamer. That's not usually how it goes. A lot of times there's kind of like you're the one person that's the oddball that kind of pops in there. So having that kind of support is freaking cool.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that, I grew up in like an Alabama town where, a lot of people would have struggled with like, D&D, that's the devil.
Yeah.
But like my mom was so supportive. She was just like, she got it. She was like, it's just a game of imagination. Like, why would I ever say no to that? So she had my back.
That's awesome because it's interesting, being from a small town. Dustin and I are also here. It's interesting how time seems slowed down so much so that you're like still like 20 years in the past. So like the Satanic Panic was new when we were growing up.
Yeah. And it hasn't completely gone away yet. Like it's.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of like pressure coming up against that. And you were saying you kind of got started there a little late, and then you took a break for college a bit there. What was it like getting a new group formed afterwards? Did you, immediately have people that you knew that wanted to play, or was it something you had to like struggle to go find other people?
So after I came out of school, is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is kind of a crazy thing. So I moved down to LA after school, and I started getting into stunts, and I started doing. I started going to all the classes and all the gyms and stuff, and I met TJ Storm through Mocap.
Wow.
And he invited me to his karate class. And so then I started taking karate with him, and we just kind of developed a friendship or whatever. And like we went out to lunch, like we had a group that would go out to lunch, and he had just purchased, I think, the 5e Player's Handbook. And it was just like, he was looking through it kind of like, he's like, do you play D&D? And I'm like, yeah, I haven't in a long time. We started looking at it, and he actually let me look at it, and I saw the picture of the dwarf section, and I held it up, and it like looked exactly like me. And DJ was like, "You want to play?" And I was like, "Yes." So we got a group together, and it was just like that was the end of it. It was just like we've been playing for like 3 years now.
Oh wow!
So yeah, it's pretty cool. It was a great group to like get to just jump right in, because TJ's like so passionate about D&D and he's such an amazing storyteller. He's just, oh my god, he'll just like he'll like get really into it.
And that's the second person we've heard good things about. When Satine was on, she talked a bit about his games and just kind of like how energetic things can get and how exciting that is. And, I mean, it must be something in common with being motion cap, right? Because if I understand correctly, you're physical stunts, martial arts, and that kind of stuff. So you probably got a lot of just energy, just kind of ready to rock.
Yeah, like what's great about like coming from Mocap, it's funny because Mocap has made my D&D better, but D&D has also made my Mocap better, because they're both like games of imagination, really. You go into what we call a volume, which is basically like the stage where you do your work with all the cameras around you, and there's nothing there. But you, as the performer, as you have to imagine everything. You have to imagine that you're on a ship. You imagine the wood under your feet. You imagine the smell of like the sea salt in the air. You create that, and you have to become immersed in it and make other people believe that you're actually somewhere. So it's the exact same thing for D&D.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was watching. Some of your previous interviews the other day, and like you had a video where you actually were showing people your motion capture in progress, and you were like walking around like a gorilla, and you were an ogre and swinging this like gigantic freaking axe that was like 6 times oversized.
It was so long ago.
Was it? It's pretty incredible, like the amount of transformation that takes place there, and you could see it like the second you took a roll on, your entire physicality changed. And like you could tell that you were playing a scene,
right?
And you're conveying it pretty well.
Oh, thank you. And that's the fun part is that, it doesn't matter what you look like.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what you sound like, who you are. You can be anything and anyone. And that's one of the great things about Mocap and in D&D. It's just like, if you can play it, you can be it.
Absolutely.
So I could go in and be a 8-foot ogre as long as I believe in my bones that I am,
Well, And I think that was the biggest thing that jumped out at me was that when you were taking on these roles as like an ogre, for instance, like you just brought up, when you started moving, there was an immediate like largeness to you. Like there was a heaviness to the steps. There was like a projection of power. There was an energeticness that was very interesting. Like, and learning to project an image, I think, is a valuable skill outside of gaming, but in particular in gaming. And it's part of getting into character. Like how you develop that character personality. Like how do you sit at the table even?
Yes.
And, are there any tricks to the trade? Like how you get into that?
So many.
Yeah.
I've been really, really fortunate to have like the best teachers. The Mocap Vaults is like a school here that actually literally just teaches you how to be a mocap performer, and they have all the tricks of the trade, like, this character, you have to, do they lead with their head? Are they intelligent? Do they lead with their head? Or are they more like driven by their groin? Do they walk with their groin? Like the little things that you use to like create like these, like, are they insecure? Do they have hunched shoulders? Every little thing, you actually go through the minute muscles in your body to sometimes create a character, and then you kind of remember that position whenever you need to get back into it. You can kind of just fall back in.
Just immediately feel it.
Sounds like the same thing our DM talks about when he does accents. Like he has to have that line that gets him into the accent. Yeah. Is it very similar, only on a physical sort of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Like, whenever I play like a hero, or like what they call is like play a main character, like the first thing I do is I kind of just like puff out my chest and like bring one shoulder back, and I kind of just lock into it. And like one thing that they always that I thought was really interesting is that they teach you how to, they're like, you have to hear a crowd going off, just roaring your name, you have to picture it. And like when I did that, it was just like my whole my whole life changed. I was just like, oh, I can hear it. They're cheering for me. I can do anything. So that was a really cool, just a little note that really stuck with me.
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely translate really well to, if you're a dungeon master, for instance, getting in there and really kind of expressing what that scene was, feeling it, getting the right little subtle hints of information, like what are the acoustic elements, what are the physical elements, what's like all at play to kind of create that rich environment for everyone to kind of come into. It's not an easy skill initially. You really have to get a very solid image in your mind, to get that to kind of come out. Now, do you have much experience as DM?
Yeah. So I did. I ran a 3.5 back in the day. It didn't last super long because, okay, believe it or not, I don't know if people will hate me or like me for this, but most likely hate me. But I actually switched over to GURPS.
Oh, wow.
And because I wanted, yeah, you guys remember that?
Yeah, we know GURPS.
Yeah, I don't think I have it on the shelf anymore, but yeah.
I just liked it because I wanted to run an X-Men campaign.
Oh,
like
nice.
I was just like, I wanted to make my own universe and everything. So I used the GURPS just setting and stuff, and I ended up calling it HERPS because it was the Hope GURPS game. And so you're like, you guys gonna come over and play HERPS with me? So that's kind of that was my biggest game that ran for like, I guess, a year, and then I had to go off to school. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's sad when things change, but it's good when it's for a good reason.
Yeah.
But I mean, superheroes. Dustin ran some superhero games for us back in the day, and they were a lot of fun.
They were all we didn't have an actual superhero system back then, so I just made up my own. So
I love that though. Homebrew is the best. I have to say, I've actually never run a module. I kind of am like intimidated by them because I've never run one.
Yeah.
Somebody wants me to run the Stranger Things module for them,
and
cool. I'm just like, well, good. It's a good, easy one to start with. But still, I'm just like, oh, I'd rather just make stuff up because, you know, I'm an improver. Like, that's my jam. Like, if you tell me to prepare something, I'll freak out. But if you're just like, oh, yeah, do this, I'm like, okay.
That's good.
So when you do DM, you don't do a whole lot of prep ahead of time. You just come in and just roll right with it, and that's where you go.
It's kind of, for me, it's a sandbox thing. Like, I prep kind of everything that's in the world and how some people where things happen, but like I'm not going to prepare to like railroad anyone into a situation. It's kind of like, oh, well, they came here, well, good, this is what happens, you know, and just kind of roll with it. I think that organic feeling can really lead to some really fun moments.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people come on and talk about their style and like how they lay out their games, what they do with it. And early on, we did an episode about, you know, whether you write a script and kind of, you know, adapt it as play occurs, but you have like a pretty good, clear idea of what you're wanting to do. Or if you're one that does like you, and to some degree myself, that we build this like just toolbox of just random stuff. And we're like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be fun. And it's a really interesting thing. You know, the more people we have come on here, we see that there's just a wide spread of these different ideas. And they produce wildly different games, I think. But most games are really freaking good, no matter what style you come from.
It's true. I mean, whatever works for you. You be you, boo. You know, it's just like, if I've been in games where, like, when you don't have like a super confident DM and they end up just railroading you because they don't know what to do if you try to veer off from what they've prepared. And that's another thing. Like, I am absolutely like not against we were in like a house or something, and then we decided to just set fire to the house and jump out the window.
Oh my
and she
God.
was like, you can't do that. And I was like, but why not? It's there. So,
well, I mean, I do think it's a challenge. You know, improv for some people comes naturally, but I think for a lot of people it's intimidating. You know, it's a lot of skill that has to go into it. And I'm trying. I mean, for myself, and I think for Dustin, we've talked about this a little bit, that live action role playing for the Vampire Larp was where we kind of cut our teeth on that. You know, we did a little bit beforehand, but we weren't actors, we weren't, you know, performers, we weren't, you know, comedians or anything like that where you get practice doing this sort of thing. And, you know, we do have some friends that are into acting, you know, who are, you know, got a little experience performing in that way. And they always had a little bit of a knack on it, you know, a little bit of a leg up. You know, they had that practice to it. Now, have you always been good at improv, or was it, you know, something you kind of got into later?
You know what? Like, there's a lot of things that don't come naturally to me, but improv was just like, I think my perspective on it was like, oh, I don't have any time to prepare, so anything that I do, people will know that I just made it off the top of my head. So if it's bad, that's not a big deal. I mean, like, you know, so it was kind of that freedom of like, you know, if you had prepared something and put your heart and soul and you put a lot of work into it, like, there's always that thing of like, it's still not good. But with improv, you're just kind of free to do whatever and be like, hey, if it wasn't good, then whatever. I just made it up as I was going along. So to me, there's that freedom. And once that clicked into my head that like, there was no pressure to be amazing or whatever, it just like, it's so freeing.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I know for me, I do a little less improv style than what Jeff usually does. I'm a little more plan ahead kind of guy, but a lot of it for me is just making sure I know all my rules and everything that I want ahead of time. So like when you pick up a system, like when you switch from 3.5 to like 5e, now granted there's few rule changes, but not a ton. Did you feel like you needed to play it for a while to really learn it before you would try DMing it again? Or as an improv, do you just do it, then look up rules later? Or
I mean, the rules of the game are what make the game, you know? So they are important. It's being able to dance with the rules, if that makes sense. You know, to be able to go with the flow, but the rules are riding with you. So while anything could happen and you go with the flow, there's still like a structure to how you handle that flow.
Yeah, the physics of the world are consistent.
Exactly.
You know, so people
Sure.
can go in. They like I find for myself when I'm in an environment where I understand the rules to an extent, it frees me up to do more creative things. Like I feel like, okay, I know where the walls are, so I can do anything I want inside these walls. You know, whereas if like I'm like I'm blindfolded and walking around on a scaffold somewhere, I don't know where I'm at. You know, like I'm gonna stay on this line. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the one thing is like, you know, yeah, if you feel like you've gone too far, you know, the rules and the structure of the game are always there to bring you back, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I dig it. You know, now this is kind of an interesting thing because you've had the opportunity to play in a table with the creator, you know, the lead developers of both 4th edition and 5th edition. And, you know, those are two completely different beasts in terms of rule set.
For real.
Yeah, both super solid, but same person behind them. Now, have you, like, what would you say you've learned from playing with that group?
You know what I've learned is that no matter how long you've played, and you can still find such joy in it. I think that's it's wonderful to see these guys who just, it's so organic to them, you know. It's in their bones. But I think I asked Adam Bradford this one day on his dev update. I was just like, do you ever get tired of D&D because it's your job and you literally have to do it every day? And he's just like, no. You know, I love it just as much as I did the first day I played. And I was just like, that's amazing. You know, playing with those guys is just playing with pure passion.
Oh, yeah. And I imagine that's when anybody finds what they love, it's got to be like that. You're like, I don't know, like I love doing this podcast. I love gaming. I love talking about it. Like every Monday comes around, I'm like, yes, it's time to do the podcast. This is gonna be great. Whereas, you know, if I would have thought about this years ago, I'd probably been like, I don't know if I want to do that. You know, like it sounds crazy.
It's so different than like a video game though, because every time you pick a video game, the video game is what the video game is. Like not very many of them is a different experience each time you do anything with it. But tabletop role-playing games, like not only is there 1,000 of them out there you can keep picking from, but each one individually you can tell a trillion stories with. So every time you play it, like our current Everstorm game feels vastly different than our previous campaign.
Oh,
like
definitely.
even though and that's not because we switched editions necessarily, just the story itself. So
and that's what really upsets me with like you know, growing up in the South again, like, you know, like people would, it literally, D&D's the devil, but I mean it's literally just a game of imagination, so it's only evil if I guess your imagination's evil. But like how could that be bad? I mean, there's so many, like I've seen you know, like people go to like offices and have the coworkers play D&D together as like building exercises and to help them break out and be more creative, you know. Like it's such an amazing thing. I don't get it why people are just like, they don't get it. It was like it's such a great game.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know if this is an experience everyone has in the chat. I am kind of curious. Like I know it was definitely something where we grew up, but in the chat, did you guys have that same experience? Did you feel that whole issue of like culture kind of pushing against gaming, you know, in terms of it being like the satanic panic or just something you just don't do as an adult, or, you know, whatever these like negative, you know, feelings being lumped on you? I imagine a lot of people went through that, and there is kind of a difficulty to kind of getting into the hobby because of that. But thankfully, those years are over. Or so it seems.
True. Oh my God.
There's still a lot of people out there trying the gatekeeping, but you know, for the most part, like it's pretty open and receptive to everybody anymore. So
yeah, it looks like the chat's going off on it.
let's
Oh,
see.
yeah.
We got Watch Devin Die says, growing up in Alabama, yeah, people were pretty heavily against kids using their imaginations. Z Damon OG says, and Gray grew up in Florida, never brought up Dungeons and Dragons till he was a teenager.
Wow.
Oh.
So
Yeah,
See,
it's
that's
tough.
so sad.
I
mean,
didn't really
yeah,
start playing until I was a teenager, so I didn't really have that
I don't.
any problem with the.
Yeah, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm sure he probably wouldn't mind, but like even like TJ Storm, his mother like burned his books.
Oh wow.
You know,
really? Wow.
We've all had that well, most people have had that struggle of like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, also living kind of in the closet as so many people who just would never say that they were into D&D
Mm-hmm.
until like a couple years ago, and like this whole new 5th edition is just like broken. Sorry, I just saw my brother in the chat. Hi, brother. Oh my god,
Showed up for you.
yeah,
That's
him.
perfect. Gotta love that.
I love it. Thanks for tuning
Is
in.
this the brother that played D&D before you?
It is. He's the
Okay.
one I first saw playing. I was
That's
just
a good
talking
brother.
about you.
Good brother.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us. Yeah, it's fascinating. Well, I mean, I think there's been a big cultural shift, towards geekdom, and whether it's TV shows about supernatural things, which I know you've been a part of Supernatural. Whether it's stuff like on HBO, they did a lot of stuff like True Blood was popular. Obviously, the Marvel movies. Disney stuff is picking up, doing things there. So it seems like we're just like surrounded with geek culture now in a way that maybe we weren't before. It's been very mainstreamed.
Simply put, the tides have turned. Right?
Oh,
It is
yeah.
the time of the geeks.
It's
We will rise.
Well, about a decade of Game of Thrones being the #1 TV show to tune into every week, does a lot for like you can't deny.
Oh my God.
It's just shows you where we're at.
It's amazing
Man.
how that's changed. Like I have a personal trainer, and he literally, in the nicest way, he's kind of a dude bro, like muscle man, loves to work out, but he fell in love with Game of Thrones. He was just like, I didn't realize that fantasy stuff could be cool. And then like he's like I want to play D&D. He's like, I want you to teach me to play D&D.
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
I would be honored. And I showed him like I just started telling him, I showed him dice, and he was just like, oh my god. And I showed him Hero Forge, and I kid you not, within 2 days he had made 10 minis.
Oh my god.
Oh wow.
Just like so excited. And he's the one I'm going to be running the Stranger Things for.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
he bought it, and he was like, please play this with me.
There is a Game of Thrones RPG out there. I picked it up in the game shop and flipped through it the other day, so I thought about picking it up.
Yeah,
but I
does it-
didn't.
Is it good, do you think? Do you think it looks good?
I don't know. I just kind of flipped through it. I haven't got a chance to play it, but I did see it there. I didn't know there was one, and I was flipping through books at the game shop. I was like, oh, what's this? And started looking at it. I was like, oh, that'd be fun, maybe. I don't know. Maybe
And
it's
see,
times past.
That's what I was
don't know.
trying to. Yeah, and that's what I was trying to tell him. I'm like, if you wanted to play in a Game of Thrones world for D&D, you could. He's like,
Yeah.
he just didn't get it a little bit. He's like, but how? It's just like, you just do it.
Yeah.
It's D&D.
you just do
You
it.
can do whatever you want.
I think you could
if you're a
definitely
big
do it.
enough fan of anything out there, IP wise, you don't have to wait for them to put out a book
Yeah.
for it.
Mhm.
You just take the base rules
Yeah.
and you just throw it into that world because you know it so well. You can run around in that world, do whatever you want to for a good long time before the rules come into conflict with anything IP wise. Like,
Mhm. There's a lot of tricks
Yeah.
I think you would have to do on there, little tweaks for Dungeons and Dragons, just because like there's a big difference in style between high fantasy and what Game of Thrones was, right? So like, it's a little grittier, it's low magic, it's a little bit more, it's human centric, like there's things you could tweak, but you could definitely do it. It would just take a little bit of work, maybe some house
It's not
rules.
only, but it's satisfying work when you make it work.
Mhm.
Like when I did like my GURPS game, I knew so much about X-Men. I knew it backwards and forwards, that like creating a world and a story around it and kind of tweaking rules and stuff. I mean, and GURPS is kind of what that's for, but like it was so satisfying to be like, I did this, like this
Mhm.
is really cool to make it work.
Oh yeah, I always love doing that stuff. Like I don't know, I may spend more time tweaking systems than actually playing. I don't know why.
such a numbers cruncher. Such a numbers for a guy who wants to improv. He spends more time crunching the numbers on things, and then he gets to run a game or somebody's just like throws it right out the window, and it's just whatever happens. Like,
I don't know. It's the creative process and doing stuff just for
it's
the
almost
fun.
like it's almost like it's a mantra that he has to go through to prep himself for the game, and then he doesn't actually need it, right? Like it's like writing down your note cards and then just throw the note cards away and give the speech, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of take it like maybe like a piece of art. Like you do a sketch and then you're done with it. The process was the experience, and then you toss it away. And you're different. You're like like those. It's like a. I can't remember who does that, but like there was like the whole like rock garden thing, you know, where they move the sand around and make a mandala, and then at the end they just destroy it. You know, and it's a sign of like creation and just like, you know, it's time to just get rid of it so we can start something new. So like I don't know, I like that idea of just like even when you finish something, you're ready for the next thing. You know, you're taking what you learned from that, but you're moving on and understanding that nothing is permanent. You know, everything is in flow.
Oh, I like that.
So I don't know. I think that's where the improv comes in.
Yeah. You know? Wait, where are you guys located?
Well, I used to be in Illinois. He's in Illinois. I'm in Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys have like a improv scene there anywhere?
No.
Well, I used to be in Chicago, so Chicago had a big one, obviously. But no, we didn't really get into that very much.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's what's really sad is because like taking improv classes or even just going to watch improv shows, it's just like super inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I go and see this group that does like a long form, like an hour long improv musical every week.
God.
It's just like one of the most amazing things. Your jaw will drop just like how fast these guys can think.
I want to say talking is one thing, acting is one thing, singing that seems rather challenging.
And rhyming, and they always say like in this what we so lovingly call as choreography up here is improv as well. So but it's just so it's such an amazing skill, I think, to have. And one thing about improv is not only does it help you when you need to improv for like a performance or for D&D, it actually really helps you in life to kind of just go with the flow.
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
The only rule of improv technically is yes and.
Yep.
You know, if somebody says something to you, you say yes, and then you add to it, you know?
Right.
So I'm sure you guys have heard that before.
Oh no, it's a really good one. Like that was another thing we kind of ran into when we were at Gamehole Con where I met you. Is, you know, it's stuff like that or like body language, like which kind of goes back to your motion capture. But like when we were at that little party, there was like a ring of people standing there, and they had their backs turned to a group of like other people, and I'm like, leave a space, guys. You know, like open up. Like don't turn your back to people. Like. They're going to feel like they can't come into the circle, you know?
Yep.
And so like we open a little side panel open, and then suddenly everybody jumps in. You know, I think that that's part of improv too, is you have to leave openings, you need to set people up, you know, to come into it.
That stops everyone but extroverts like me. I see that, and that's a challenge.
Break in.
I'm going to find my way in
There
that
you go.
circle. Got to get in there. Like, it's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. So it's pretty, it's interesting just how much we convey in such like simple ways, improv wise, because even you're just the way you stand, the way you're turning, the way you happen to like look at somebody for a length of time, there's so much that's just packed in that.
Sure.
And I think it's the thing we miss at the table, you know, when you're doing things like combat.
Yeah, and well, that's sorry. Go ahead. Combat.
You're on.
No way. Well, I was just gonna say before that, it's like being at the table. The most important thing about improv, I think, and I've learned a lot of schools of improv, and they all seem to focus on certain things, but there was one school that really focused on being a good scene partner.
Yeah.
Don't make it about you, make it about them. And like when you can give gifts basically to your scene partner, you lift both of you guys up. And the same thing at the table. You know, everybody can be consumed with their backstory and who they are and what they can do, and you know, how am I going to defeat this person? But when you look at the bigger picture, at what you guys are trying to accomplish together and how you can lift up your companions to also shine, oh my God, it's so satisfying, and everybody's better for it. Everyone enjoys it so much more. And I think that's the number one thing about improv, is knowing that you're not alone. You're never alone with improv. You always have somebody who's helping you, being part of it with you.
Now we're getting a bunch of bits here for the conversation that we're having. It's great. I appreciate all those. And I will have you guys know that the Streamlabs apparently is about to blow out my eardrums every time you do that. So if you want to cause me some like temporary discomfort and make me jump and lose my train of thought, just keep raining those bits. And
what's a bit? I don't know. I'm so out of this.
We didn't know this stuff
They're
either.
technically a penny a piece. They're giving us pennies and making Joe's ears explode for pennies. It's awesome though.
So each of those little emojis that has like a number next to it is how many bits that is. So like earlier we had, I think it was 101 next to a salt shaker, so that was $1. So people are just making it rain on us here just to blow up my eardrums. And you know, if that's what it takes, if me becoming permanently deaf is what it takes to get some pennies, I'm all in.
They're casting deafness on Jeff.
I feel like I can hear it a little bit through the camera.
Yeah, it's got to be through there coming.
You could probably hear it.
I'm sitting next to my mic, so that's probably the problem.
So as somebody who's so physical in their portrayals of stuff, when you're playing on your stream game, when you're on Beyond Heroes, you're in this tiny little box because you can't get up and move or you'll be right off screen, like we are right now. Like, you know, you're cropped, I'm cropped, I can't move much, we're gonna be off screen. Like, do you find that hard to do, to then contain yourself in a tiny little box?
It's weird because it's weird because you go from being a stage performer, you know, when you're around the table or whatever, to what we call as being like a film performer. Like then all of it's just in your face, you know, because that's all people see. So it becomes a lot more subtle, and expressions suddenly become your movements. And that's another form of mocap when you're just doing facial capture and stuff. But it's funny you say that, because even though we're stuck in these little boxes, I swear, TJ Storm always finds a way to he has this really interesting setup where he can kind of see his whole apartment, and like he'll just like get up and just like, I grab the treasure and I run, and then he'll actually get up and run into his bedroom. And so like it's amazing that he thinks outside the box, and people always love it. They're like, oh, there goes TJ, he's running away,
and he's gone.
You know, that reminds me so much of our DM Levi. He's, especially in the early days when we were all like playing in person, like he is very physically animated.
It amazes me how much he contains himself when we're on stream, because it is such in his nature to get up. Like I think if his headset, well, he has a wireless headset too, so I'm surprised he's not up more. But it's
yeah.
Hey, thanks for the follow there, much appreciated.
It's so interesting to like think about how you can use the box, you know, like even just a little bit. Like you always see me on the show just being like, you're getting tossed around, and then I'm like, wah! Wah! You know, and you just play with it that way, and it can be really fun to like use what you have. Yeah, you're stuck in the box. Yeah, you got it.
I was working on it. It's a little delayed, but I couldn't see myself in it, so I was like, it's around here somewhere. But
we looked really weird there for a second. You were swaying back and forth. He was in a box. I'm just sitting here. I was confused. I didn't know what my cue was at that moment. Okay, I'm just gonna sit here.
Could be worse. It could be like that week our tech guy was making spider animations come down and crawl on her face.
Yeah, at least we don't have to worry about Clinton dropping spiders on us this week. That's a plus. So.
That was a rough one. It's like, what's happening over there? Okay. Yeah, no, it's really cool just like seeing the differences in players. You know, like obviously, you know, there's different learning styles, and I think there are definitely physical people that learn best by, you know, physical interaction, you know, like doing things. And I think it translates to their game style. And I think a lot of times, a lot of old school gaming groups didn't have that person, you know, because it was that traditional, like, hi guys, we're, you know, the book nerds over here, like me, you know, so like, it was all like reading it and then saying it. So like, there was no physical activity for me, you know, but then you get this new, you know, group of people, and maybe they're always there and I just didn't know them, but, you know, that have these like physical, you know, learning styles that kind of get out there and like really project it and really thrive in that environment where they can, you know, gesticulate and kind of make all kinds of character development out of that.
But it's so cool because at the same time, it both bring so much to the table. I mean, literally, like we can learn from each other, and I have 2 games during the week that aren't Beyond Heroes. One of them is with TJ, Theater of the Mind. He emotes a lot and does a lot of like walking around like this, and you see him, and you know, fighting is always super epic and stuff. But at the same time, on my Wednesday games, it's all map, it's all minis, it's very much, but it's there's a technicalness to it that I appreciate, and how much people people know the rules and like can just spout out all this knowledge, and it's a completely different kind of game,
Mhm.
and I love it just as much.
Now, I guess the question I have, and this is something we've been talking about a little behind the scenes, is how to create more energetic, immersive combat around the table. So, like, we use a battle map. I prefer it. Theater of Mind, though, is still present. Like, there's still the descriptive, and there's still the narration that occurs round to round. And I think that's something that, if you want people to really have fun in combat, that has to be kind of a secret sauce kind of added in. Now, do you have any like really like amazing examples, like things that have happened, like a scene that you were in that you thought like, man, this really felt like I was somewhere, seeing this?
Oh my god. There was, I mean, like, there's so many moments, but there was this one moment when I'm playing this beastly druid, and it's so interesting where you say that you're casting a spell, and then your DM will just like, okay, but how do you cast the spell? Like, what do you do to give you that chance? And there's like this moment when we had orcs and giants. We were in a ship, and we were in the middle of like a river, and there were orcs on both sides shooting arrows, or maybe they were on one side, and we had a giant wading through the water at us, and like I had dove into the water to like save one of our people who had just like fallen overboard, and I dove in, and I just remember like he just let me go, and he just kind of let me do my thing, and I was like, my character, dives into the water without a splash and reaches out and grabs with such strength the character, and then casts water walk, and we just whoosh fly up to this, and I toss him, and then I misty step 1, 2 back on to the railing as I cast tidal wave, and then like, and he just like lets me just like go for it, and it's just so amazing. I've had these as a stunt performer. We do a lot of this where like I have a monk of the astral way monk, and
cool.
it's really cool because when you're doing things as a monk, you can like be like, and she's like, how do you kill this person? And you're just like, I butterfly kick over them, and as I do that, I swing and I slice their throat, and as I land, I cut up to the jugular, blah blah blah. Like you do all these like flowery movements, and you can actually name moves like a roundhouse kick, but don't put my foot down, and come back with a hook kick, and and then come in with a double drop kick, and you can like say all these things, and it's just like so much more visual, especially when you're around stunt people who know what all that means.
Oh yeah.
Like, I jump into a 540 kick, and as I land, I do pocket sand.
Never fails. Pocket sand is always it.
Pocket sand, always there for you.
It gets me back to what I always what I always talk about with anything, like even combat. Like when those times when the game slows down, your acting doesn't have to stop. Like you can take your free social actions to talk. You just because you're moving 30 feet, like think of how much in 30 feet you can do while you're moving. Like you can describe that. There's just you're not necessarily at a dead run or like the way a video game will show you where you march in place the whole time until your character moves again, right? Like you can describe how these things happen. It doesn't have to look that mechanical. Like,
yeah, and I think that's the thing. We talked about this a little bit, but I think this is a kind of an interesting concept. That same 30-foot movement can be described multiple ways if you decide to. So like, you can, I think we talked about this in like getting into character, that episode.
Yeah,
and like,
a little bit.
So you can slink up there 30 feet. You can slowly jaunt, dragging your sword behind you, just effortlessly blocking gaze with your opponent. You can convey so many of these like little, personality traits in just movement. And, I think a lot of people are nervous about, taking up too much time on their turn, right? Because, combat gets so long, you're in there, you're just rolling dice, and people are like,
I don't think it's that. I think people are concerned that a DM's going to take that cue to make a check.
Oh.
I do this. Can you tumble in your heavy plate mill? Can you be that guy?
Just
let it go. No one cares.
Yeah,
just let that part go. Unless it's important, let it go.
you should be rewarding your players for being so
Yeah.
creative.
Absolutely.
I definitely have had those moments where it's like I kind of call out this move and I'm just like, yeah, and then I toss this person's head, like I toss an arrow through their throat, and they're like, you're aiming for the throat? All
Yeah.
right, I'm gonna need a very like an amazing attack roller. You're gonna miss the throat because you called it out. And I'm just like, dude, I'm just being cinematic.
Yep.
You know, like,
Yeah.
why are you doing this to me?
Yeah, I think
But-
that comes in when people are like, oh, there needs to be rules for direct shots, you know, like called shots need to be a thing.
Yeah,
And it doesn't have
called
to be. Like, I think it has to be like, if what you're doing is going to create some kind of advantage, like something that's outside of the rule system, then I guess at that point, you know, people can say, like, maybe we need to tone it back. But if it doesn't impact the rules and it's literally just descriptive, I don't see why anyone would stop that. You know, like I think fluff and flavor and skinning should be pretty open for players and DMs.
That's where I get in my argument sometimes about the way Pathfinder does it. I'm not gonna go off on a tangent here, but sometimes I just want to trip somebody, and it's like, "Do you have all the feats for that?" And I'm like, "No, I don't," but I'd still like to try to be cool. And it's like, "No, you can't. You don't have feats, Dustin." Like, damn you, Pathfinder.
Well, but I think
My rank for the day. I'm done. I'm
we
out.
won't go too far in this, but I think that's this thing I was saying though, is if it interacts and touches the rule system in some way that gives you a mechanical advantage, that's when I think that the rules need to be played within the rules. But if it's not giving you some kind of mechanical advantage and it's literally just descriptive, you should be able to do it. Like, period.
For sure.
You know, like if it's like my weapon just happens to be in my left hand, I'm switching it to my right. Like, that shouldn't take an action. You know, so like just let that little thing be there so players can look at you as you're taking your turn and be entertained. Because that's the thing I notice around the table is, not that we play around the table very often these days, but you know, when people are taking their turn, you know, everyone else is kind of looking at their phone. Hopefully not, but you know, these things happen. You know, they're just like yawning in the corner, you know, something. And you want to keep everybody really engaged. You want them like really excited. You want them, you know, to see the scene playing out. And so, like, I think if you got your players going in and, you know, they've figured out the mechanics of what they're going to do, they've already made the roll, they know how it played out, and then they get that opportunity to describe it. I think that's where you need to do the flourish. You know, like, come in, say, like, this is what I saw, this is what I'm trying to do. Maybe the DM riffs with you a little bit, add some details, you maybe play off each other a little bit. Because that's when everyone gets tuned in. That's when the fight doesn't feel like it's dragging. It feels like it's exciting.
Yeah. It's I especially love it when Satine Phoenix is really great at it. She playing in her games is like you'll say like I want to climb the tree, and she goes, how do you climb the tree? You know, she'll just lean in and just be like, how do you do this? And then she lets you describe it, and just as you said, then she adds her own flourish on it, you know, and that's D&D, you know, that you're creating something together, and when everybody's engaged, and you know, you're inspiring people to be creative, which inspires other people to be creative, and it's just like this snowball effect.
Just lifts them up.
Pure amazingness.
Yeah. So, like, you're talking about monks being a good example of a class. It's very evocative, you know, visually. Are there any other classes that really like just jump out at you and like kind of cinematic kind of flavor?
I mean, I'm a druid. I gotta tell you, man. Like, they're right. Like, to me, there's nothing more epic and cinematic as a druid sometimes. Like, so I have two druids right now. I have one, obviously from Beyond Heroes. She's, hello, my name is Penelope Earthbite. Do you want to be my friend? You know, she's very sweet. She's a halfling. She's tiny, and she loves flowers and plants and stuff. And then on the other side, I have Ilawi, and I am the Kraken priestess, and I will, you know, I command thunder and I command the storm. And so there's like two sides of the druid and of nature. You know, get the flowery side, and then the storm side.
Yeah, the fury.
It's just oh, I love it so much.
Now, it seems like you're not doing a whole lot of shape shifting.
You know what? It's so funny that you say that.
Yeah.
Like, are you talking about wild shape?
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny that you say that, because my first the current druid I'm playing, there's a mechanic that I've been given that does not allow me to wild shape. It's not a thing in our game. I cannot wild shape. So I play druids that I just never really got used to using the mechanic, and then started playing Penelope and realizing that I could wild shape, but then I always forget about it because I'm used to not using it. So I need to use it more. It's a mechanic I'm not super in tuned with.
It can get cumbersome because there's a lot. Every form you take is another set of stat adjusts you have to make sure you keep track of. So I had to create a spreadsheet for all mine. That's where it gets more mathy sometimes than you want it to be. So
if I have it in here, like, oh god, okay. This is like when I first realized I was going to have to do wild shape. I was just like,
just got a folder.
Oh my god, I know. I've got all my D&D stuff. It's everywhere, guys. It's everywhere. But
this is just we're getting some of that combat movement here. She's doing some barrel rolls. She's.
Is she?
Oh, am I here?
Yeah, you're. I mean, you're there somewhere. That's a really cool legend. Really cool Legend of Zelda blanket you got there too. By the way, it's getting some airtime.
I made this.
Oh my god!
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
I'm jealous now.
So I like all of these things are like little cheat sheets.
Oh, nice.
For everything that I can be, and I remember making this for the very first episode of Heroes of the Veil because I was freaking out about. Oh my gosh, what if I have to wild shape and then I don't know what I'm doing? And so I spent hours, everything's laminated and everything's in alphabetical order. So yeah, that's kind of how far I go with my D&D stuff. I always want to make sure I'm so prepared that I'm not bogging down the game. And especially in something like Beyond Heroes, it's like
yeah, when you're on TV.
You don't want to mess up the pace when to me when it comes to doing streams or anything, I'm an entertainer. I just want to entertain people. I don't really to me, if I'm being entertaining, then it's all that matters. If the story is fun and people are engaged, then I'm doing my job.
Absolutely.
That's So that's why I always like to make sure that the pace is happening. I know my stuff backwards and forwards so that I can make sure that there's no lull, or at least I'm not the reason for the lull.
Yeah, I find that with my druid as well, because what I did was I took the entire list and I limited it down to animals that are most likely along the coast, because I'm a druid of the coast. So I'm like, water animals live on land near water, and I'm not doing any of the other ones. And then I'm always because we're playing a stream game, and I'm like, okay, I changed into this, and my DM was like, hold on, I got to find a panther, and I'm like, god damn it, I should have sent him and told him I was going to be a panther ahead of time.
So we got a couple random things here from the chat, so I'll go in order that I saw them. So first of all, we had mention, where was it at? It totally scrolled up and disappeared. Watch Devin Die says that a class that they like a lot for kind of painting a scene is the bard, and I can see that. So you definitely get the flourish. A lot of times you get swashbuckler angles, maybe you get to describe your music, performances, and that kind of stuff. So that's a good one. DL Pancake, my dad, he's asking about the artwork behind you. If you could tell him a little bit about
you want to
the paintings we were talking about beforehand.
We know the answer already, but you can tell everyone else now.
So they're from a paint night my friend and I did. So we go to the paint night, everybody's there. I guess there's a teacher who's basically okay, now we're gonna do this and now we're gonna do this, and so everybody gets the same picture, but they're slightly different. And then I got to keep these because I couldn't take them on the plane, so one's mine, one's my friend's. So there's that. And then I've got all my geeky posters behind me. I don't know if you guys can see them, but most of them are either Legend of Zelda or How to Train Your Dragon, or
apparently a bit of a fan of Legend of Zelda, according to the fans have definitely taken notice of that.
They were kind of trolling you a little bit. They're like, are you a big fan? A real big fan?
Yeah, Watch Devin Die wanted to know, do you like The Legend of Zelda? Question mark.
Just a little, just enough to get some tattoos and some shirts and merch.
Yeah. You got the bedspread there. You got
right.
Trying to see what else is in the background there. There's a lot of really interesting stuff back there.
Yeah, Big Hero 6, and then I've got Lord of the Rings. My favorite prize possession is
Majora's Mask I see back there too.
Oh heck yeah, it is.
That's a Majora's Mask poster back there in the corner.
And then I've got my Avatar Last Airbender. I've got a ton of that. And then Galaxy Quest. My room is a complete nerd haven. So my walls are just filled with all of the nerd stuff, and I love it.
Wow. Yeah, so nobody can deny the nerddom coming out of you. I don't know why people make that a thing. You know, like they get out there and they just have to prove that they're the bigger nerd. You know, like,
Right.
you don't belong here. I've been playing the game since blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, right. Well, now becoming a nerd has become cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's a wild transformation. Ha ha. Ding. So I guess we also have some conversation about cosplay a little bit here in the chat. Air Laser's talking about the Galaxy Quest cosplay.
oh my god, that's so sweet. Yeah, it's my favorite movie. I love to say that I am Galaxy Quest's biggest fan. Like I decided early on at a young age. I just sat there one day and I was like, what's my favorite movie? Okay, well, what's the most perfect movie? What's a movie that combines the most amazing story, the best acting, something that just makes you feel good, takes you on an adventure, and is funny? I'm like, Galaxy Quest. It's my favorite movie now. And ever since, like, I have like a huge collection of like everything you imagine. You can like I've got like everything signed by producers, directors, and like every time I
That's so
go to like screenings, I have the cosplay, I wear it. And what was really cool is just like a couple weeks ago, that Screen Junkies Never Surrender documentary came out. Did you guys hear about that?
I haven't. No. I need to. I'm apparently out of the loop.
Yeah. So I know, right? Come on, get in that Galaxy Quest.
It's a really good movie, not gonna lie. I really like that movie a
It is a
lot.
good one.
But yeah, it was Screen Junkies made like this beautiful tribute to Galaxy Quest. It was like an hour-long documentary they put in theaters. And like my lifelong dream is I'm actually in that documentary for
What?
like, I got like 2 lines. But,
Nice.
I'm in there with all the greats. They had Tim Allen and Sigourney Weaver and everybody doing things. I'm like, I'm in the same documentary as them. I can die happy. I'm in the Galaxy Quest. This is as close as it's gonna get to like being in a Galaxy Quest thing. So I'm good. So,
They're remaking everything these days. Don't have hope that they won't somehow bring them back. I mean, Ghostbusters is getting another one. Like they're bringing everything else back. It's not too late.
they were actually writing a Galaxy Quest TV show, bringing back the whole cast.
Oh man.
And then of course when Alan Rickman died, they kind of it was a mix of 2 things. Alan Rickman died, and they weren't sure if they were still going to do it. And then they had said yes, that they were still going to do it without Alan Rickman. And then Orville came out. And
Yeah, basically hits that same. Well, yeah.
it
That would
hits
be
that
rough.
same kind of. Yeah.
It's an interesting take. Like, I mean, I grew up in a household of Trekkies, right? So like conventions and stuff. Like it is exactly that. Like it is so spot on. It's one of the most ridiculous concepts, but it's so good.
They just gotta wait and see how Picard does. Once they
Yeah.
see Picard works with, because then the rest of that cast is not back for that, maybe the first episode, and that's it, So after they see that work, they're like, we can do that with Tim Allen. We get Tim Allen in on that. Just we do a Galaxy Quest. It'll be like Picard, only it'll be, his character will be.
Art
just-
Chaos. Art
That's
Chaos
a-
seems to think Adventures in Babysitting is the perfect movie. Wow.
Really?
Oh, that is a reach back.
Wow. I want to know why. Like I love hearing people's favorite movies or what they think is like the perfect movie, because like I'm a huge movie buff. Like it's so rare for me to hate a movie. I always find something to like, and when I hear people who can actually pick a favorite movie, it's something that's just so fascinating to me to be like, why did you pick that movie? What resonates with you in that movie?
Well,
It's
that tells you a lot, I think, about what entertains you, what you find value in, because that translates to games too. Like what sorts of elements do you focus on in that story that you're telling or the games that you're playing, and what do you present as a player? Oftentimes it comes back to the same thing as you enjoy in movies or enjoy in books. Now,
Sure.
are there particular themes or aspects of movies, like the acting itself, the drama, the script, the music, the visuals, or like what is the big one that really jumps out at you as the important, like, cornerstone?
entertaining. Honestly,
yeah.
it comes back to that whole. Does this movie? It's 2 things. Is does this movie leave me feeling good? Like, do I, have I been fully entertained, and do I have a fuzzy, warm feeling at the end of it? And also, just was it entertaining? It's just like, and that's like the 2 things I bring, that I strive to bring every week to Beyond Heroes. is just that I just want to be entertaining. I want to make people laugh, and I want to make people feel good and just enjoy their time. So that's my character Penelope. She's kind of dumb, and she does dumb things, and it's really fun, and she's very cute. But everything I do is geared towards making the story a little bit more entertaining for the audience.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's at the end of the day, when you're sitting around a table playing a game, you hope people are having fun. You know, if you're not enjoying yourself, what are you doing there?
Yeah. And again, that's my play style as a DM. I'm all about pacing. Because when pacing lags, then people start losing interest, and you know, so pacing keeps people engaged and interested and entertained.
Now, see, Archaeos has followed up on his reasons. It's a movie from the 80s. It literally has everything. It has romance, adventure, car chases, criminal syndicates, and Thor. And also says that it's a perfect movie, just like Princess Bride. Princess Bride is pretty
Princess Bride ranks
spot on.
up there pretty high for a lot of people.
Yes, absolutely.
Jeff, what's your favorite movie while we're here?
Oh, man.
Yours? Mine. I don't know if you know yours.
I'm not super positive. Like, I had one for a while there, and I kind of like fell out of it a little bit. But I really liked Ex Machina a lot when it came out.
Ex Machina was good.
Like I'm more on that serious kind of drama side of things. More like I like the philosophical kind of
me too.
Deep dive kind of ones.
Mine's Fight Club.
Fight Club is pretty high up there. Yeah.
It's a great, almost perfect.
Like 20 years, and nothing has dethroned Fight Club in 20 years. So I keep waiting, maybe someday, but Fight Club for me still.
There's been some good ones.
We got a question from one David Pancake. Have you played Star Trek, Traveler, Starfinder, any of the
sci-fi games? Yeah, science fiction games.
Sci-fi games. I get the TTRPGs. I think that's directed at you, Hope. Have you played any space games?
Sci-fi stuff.
Sci-fi space games, Trek, any of those RPGs?
No, actually, I have. I've played Starfinder. My Pathfinder group. Did I lose you guys?
I hope not.
Okay, sorry. I was like, everybody went really quiet for a second. I have played Starfinder. Our Pathfinder group decided to up to Starfinder, and that was really cool because the classes and the races were just like really interesting. I didn't play for very long before I got pulled into work again, but that was really fun. Sci-fi is so interesting because personally, I will pick fantasy over sci-fi.
Yeah.
But it's a nice change of pace sometimes.
I'll never forget, Jeff, when we were young and we played that one Star Trek game, and your dad played a character. I remember exactly what he had. He had sexy +2 as a merit, and we've never let Dave hear the end of it. So sexy +2.
It came in handy.
30 years later.
It did the job. Yeah, I mean, there's a big swing in style, you know, when you go to a sci-fi versus fantasy. Like, I think I'm with you on that. I'm a fantasy person over a sci-fi thing. But there are definitely different stories you can tell, and there's a different feel to it. And it's interesting, like, just the expectation of a difference. Even if everything else is the same, it just immediately feels different when you sit down. You know, and of course, these modern settings, or like the near future or the far future, everything is range combat. You know, it's you know, not like that in fantasy games.
I think it's hard because technology does so much for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when you think about, like, if you were going to try to roleplay like Star Trek, like, when you watch Star Trek, like, with the exception of when they beam down to a planet, most of them are sitting at computer terminals, you know, punching buttons. They turn around, they say something right. I mean, William Shatner never left his seat most of the time. He just kind of sat there like this, you know, like, it's hard to describe or to be real cinematic in those situations. The cinematic part's coming from your DM describing the torpedoes hitting, rocking, things falling over. Like, you know, you can't do that part as a player. So I think those games have to get over that hurdle of how do you make, like, gunfire combat interesting cinematically in a tabletop setting versus sword shields clashing and things like that. Seems like it's much easier to do. So
it also comes down to, like, if you think about adding the technology of, like, kind of what we have today into a futuristic game, and they're like, make a wisdom check or an intelligence check to see if you know about this object, and, like, they roll really badly, and then they're like, I'll just Google it. You know, like, it kind of, I guess that makes a good point of, like, fantasy games. There's a lot more
it's a little harder
organicness
as a too, because, like, you don't know, like, you have to, like, suddenly become like a tech guy, So
Poor hand wave
it's hard
guy,
for me to
you
do
know.
sci-fi because it's like, what is this? I don't know. And they're like, no, it could totally do that. And you're like, can it? And it's like, look, current tech can do that. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Sorry. Like, all right, fine. I guess you can do that. Like, I had no idea. I'm not a tech guy. All right, look, I have no idea what it can do. Just sure, just make a roll. Make a roll.
It's your game. It does what you say it does.
Sure, right. Until you're wrong, and then they're like, just make a roll. 15's the DC. Why? I don't know why 15's the DC, but I just said 15's the DC. Just make a roll. You did it. Fine, good. Now let's move on.
Now, with the fantasy stuff, you're talking about sword and shields and kind of getting in there and clashing up close and personal. Have you been able to do any motion cap where you got to do that?
Oh my god, I wish you guys could see it. There's actually a video up in my reel where I got to play a thief.
Oh,
a
nice.
thief who enters the cave of a giant troll.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so cool. I got to creep up and look, and I was sneaking around and I had a sword on, or I had a knife in my pocket and a sword on my back, and I dropped down and I'm really being quiet, and then the troll sees me and I'm stealing gold, and then he's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, whoop! And then I try to play it off that I'm just, again, this is Bilbo Baggins moment. It's just oh, I wasn't stealing from you. And then we got into a combat thing where we're he's got this huge heavy axe or whatever, so he's just I'm gonna kill you, and then he's this, but then I'm the fast little thief who's doing these rolls underneath his legs, and then he knocks me back, I drop something, so I got to do this cool thing where I got to do a cartwheel and pick up my sword as I'm
nice.
cartwheeling, and then I come out like this, and then just got to do a lot of very active things, and a lot of really fun falls, and that was probably one of the most fun mocap moments.
We got a question from Watch Devin Die for Hope. Who are some of your biggest inspirations for acting, performing, role-playing? Living or dead, real or fictional?
Oh my goodness.
That's a big one.
That's a big question. Yeah. Okay, Hope, improv, go.
Want a moment to think?
Oh my gosh.
So
Well,
it's
for
always easy to
role-playing-
improv fantasy. You try to improv real life. Suddenly it ain't so easy anymore.
No pressure. This just lives on the internet forever.
No, I would think about that. In a year, I'll cringe. Oh my god, who?
That's all right. We only
It's
ever
so
talk about 20
embarrassing.
views. Sure, it's okay. Don't worry. No have to have any people are going to see it immediately. We'll have time to. We'll cut it in post. We'll cut it in post. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's right.
Cut.
That's right. Yeah, I would definitely say when it comes to role playing, Chris Perkins. I mean, watching him DM characters, he just recently did the stream at Gamehole Con, and just watching the subtleness of his characters, they're so charming, and there's something about not having to be grandiose about your characters for them to really leave a mark. So for that, it's definitely, I could watch him all day. For performing and improv, oh my gosh, God, this is hard. This is really hard.
It's it's hard when it's a question you really care about. The topic is very important. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially when you're thinking about oh, if this is something you do as a performer, or people who are actors. I don't like to call myself an actor. I'm just an entertainer. But there's so many amazing. Yeah, I don't know. I'll come back to it.
We'll come back to it.
For improv, I think for improv, the only thing I can come up with was I think his name was Scott Stiles from Whose Line Is It Anyway? That was all we had for improv growing up, right?
God.
But just their ability.
Oh, Ryan Stiles.
Ryan Stiles, yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of his first name. I was thinking Stiles. I was trying to think of it. Yeah, Ryan Stiles. He was he was always, in my opinion, the king of improv. It didn't matter what they threw at him. He had the answer on the spot. And it was always him.
That's funny.
Even though it was
And I never
comedy.
saw it that way.
Oh, wow.
They are amazing.
Hey, thanks, Jay Bruce.
Jay Bruce.
Much appreciate the subscription there, Jay Bruce. Appreciate you. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff.
Somebody mentioned Shadowrun in chat, and it's some of the Jay Bruce.
That actually, I think that is
Pretty much how it
legit what
works.
happened. Yeah. Everyone's got their favorites.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's see. Yeah, I was gonna ask you something. Now I'm blanking on what it was. Had to do with the combat mocap. Oh, I was gonna ask, are there any movies or anything that you've been in that you could tell us about that aren't under some kind of NDA kind of situation that we might recognize you from?
For probably nothing yet. Has that come out yet? No, I don't think that's come out yet. There is an Adult Swim show that I think. Oh, I better be careful with this.
Oh,
Maybe.
I think I know which one you're talking
Dangerous
about.
waters.
We're just here to get you
People
locked
out
up.
there, though, we said this before we went live. You do have an IMDb page, and I think you were our first guest that has an IMDb page. So I mean, for people who want to find any of your stuff, there's a good place to start, right? So I mean,
Absolutely.
it sometimes
really
shows future
hasn't
projects, so
updated.
maybe it's on there, you know.
Yeah, it hasn't been updated in years. I think I should really get back to updating it. But
What's been your
you know,
favorite thing to be in that is out that you can talk about, I guess? It's another one of those favorite questions. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I know. You put me on the spot.
You can only choose one child.
What the,
Lift my
When it
lips and I
comes-
said it, yeah.
when it comes to stunts, oh man, it's been a while. So there was this, I forget what it ended up being called, but there was actually, believe it or not, my favorite thing that I was ever in was this short film called The Acceptance Letter of Amy Song, or not Amy Song. I think it was Amelia Song or something like that. It's not Amy Pond or whatever, but there's like this wizarding thing that I was in, and I got to do a bike crash. I was doubling a little. So I do a lot of stunts. I double for kids a lot because I'm super short, and
Pro skill.
she was riding along, and then this bully like sticks a stick through her wheel.
I've got some
She
experience
goes,
with that.
Oh yeah, in real life, yeah, you're a stunt person yourself. So she goes toppling over, and then like a totally amazing stunt that they call me up. They're like, "Can you do a bike crash?" And I'm like, "I've never done one, but I will do it." And first take, one take wonder.
Nice.
Although I practiced it so much, my shins were totally like beat up.
Oh God, I was gonna say you don't want to try that again.
No. But it was great. It feels so good. I am in this music video. This might be my favorite. I remember it now. It's called Inhale.
Okay.
Oh God, I forget the band. But it's this amazing thing where we're in an office building, and it's 5:00 on Friday. And as soon as like everyone's working all cordially and they're doing their office things, and then suddenly 5:00 hits, and then it was like dun dun dun, and like we're all like, we gotta get out of here, and we're all fighting to get to the elevator first, and it becomes like this bloodbath of just like so many amazing stunts. I got to drop kick somebody, which and I was in a skirt. I'm not, when they're like, yeah, can you drop kick this? I'm like, I'm in a, yes I can. Yes.
Was it Duke Dumont?
Huh? Yes, Duke Dumont.
Parent Watch Devin Die is helping us out here.
Thank you. It's on it.
On top of
Good
things.
work, Devin.
That sounds like a wild video.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I got to do a lot of fun stunts on that one. It was funny because there were only 3 of us stunt people. I think there were only 3 stunt people hired, and then the rest were like background performers. So we did all of like the heavy lifting on the stunts. But man, everyone else really, really got into it. I was so impressed with them. I'm like, man, people are just gonna think that they were stunt people too.
It would be fun to try. I don't know if part of me would think I could do it, and then part of me I'm like, I would definitely chicken out.
Oh really? You know, start small, but you know what? That's one of my favorite things is actually teaching people to like I don't care what it is, if it's parkour, stunts, and I love helping people break that barrier. Like even just teaching you how to do like a roll or how to do a punch or a kick. Like I get a lot of joy out of that. And so like, hey, if you and I are ever in the same con or something, we'll go do a little fight choreo or something.
Of course, absolutely. I'm gonna be at so many cons this year. I'm probably gonna be at like, I think it was like 50 or something like that. It's gonna be crazy. So I'm sure I'll bump into you somewhere. Before I get attacked here by the chat, I apparently missed a question.
We have some housekeeping we got to do here. So
Air Laser.
Mod's getting angry at us. We missed her question. So after some digging, we've located it.
Yep. Sorry about the Air Laser.
Sorry, Air Laser. We still love you.
Air Laser is into cosplay, and I think you two have been talking a little bit on our Discord. She wanted to know what if you had a favorite cosplayer.
Louis Aquino, I think is how you say it.
Okay.
If you guys
I am really not versed.
I'm not familiar with the cosplay scene much at all, I'll be honest. So
Yeah, I'm not like I love seeing great cosplay and stuff, but there's very few cosplayers I actually follow. There's some amazing ones on Instagram that just, oh my god, they'll blow your mind. They're so beautiful. Like, they're such beautiful people. But Louis Aquino was like the first one that I was like, I want to see all of your stuff, and I want you to do more, and I will follow you. He does a lot of characters I like Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians does Louis. What is it? Oh, he'll do Hero from Big Hero 6. Like, a lot of my favorite characters. How to Train Your Dragon, he'll do Hiccup. But he just does them so perfectly. Like, he really, the finite details in the choices of textures and the makeup, and going as far as like getting the hair just right, and he does this really cool makeup with like contouring his face to where he looks like a completely different person. That level of passion and everything that you do, like, that really sticks out to me, and that's why I love it.
There's just a whole world of skills that go into that. Like, it's not something I'm trying to think through, like, with the exception of maybe Levi, I don't think we have any cosplayer types in our group, and so it's always been something that I've seen. Yeah, I think Tim maybe too.
Does Tim do a little? Well, see, they're theater.
Yeah,
so
theater
it's always
people.
hard to tell because, like, Levi, like, he posted a lot of his pictures in our Discord, so you've seen a lot of them this week. But I think Tim, because they're theater and they're used to getting into costume, I think it's a natural transition to like get into costume for something that's not theater. Then, so
yeah, but there's also the elements that you're describing. There's the craftsmanship that goes into it. There's obviously the love of the characters that you're personifying. There's obviously we've been talking a lot about the physicality of the character. There's a lot of things that go into it. It's a very massive section of cons. If you go there, it's like, I don't know, a quarter, a third of the con goers are dressed up doing, interesting cosplays. There's, the masquerade balls, all that kind of stuff. And so it's one of those things I feel like we're lacking on in our channel with the TT2KB. Like, we got music, we got video games, we got, tabletop role playing, we got all the like movies and everything. We don't have costumes. It's like, I've been wanting to talk about it and like have somebody who knows stuff about it to come on and like share what they know.
Well, you have somebody.
Yeah.
So obviously someone who's super passionate about it and knows so much.
Absolutely. These are the things, like, when you don't know much about it, you're like, well, that's a good question. Yeah. But, like, I guess what was the first thing you had to do to get started? Was it just come up with an idea and go, or was it, learning how to sew? Was it to like...
Learning how to sew. Okay, no, that actually came second. I remember my first cosplay just kept falling apart because I literally didn't know how to sew, and I was just kind of like, oh, this will work. No, it doesn't work. That's one of the reasons I love cosplay so much, because it lends itself to making you learn a lot of new skills, and I love learning. I love trying new things, and I love the satisfaction of like, oh, I could have commissioned something, or I could have purchased something, but the fact that I gained a skill and then I have it, like, that's way better. I love that so much.
Seems like it could be a very expensive hobby to get into.
Well, you know what? I'm a leather crafter, so now that's an expensive hobby.
Oh my god.
Get into leather crafting. It's so expensive. And then if you mess up, you've like wasted hundreds of dollars, and you're just like, oh, it's so stressful.
Yeah, I can imagine. God. My son's, he's getting into the cosplay scene. He's starting to wanting to do some of that stuff. So I'm learning because he wants to get. He's 13. Well, yeah, he'll be 14. He's 14. So.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. Well, what's he trying to
do? He was big into Attack on Titan. So he's got an Attack on Titan like suit, and he has a couple other friends that do it too. So he kind of got into it because of them. So he's duct tape swords, everything else he's constructed. Like, he's getting better at some of it with working with the cheap materials, and eventually I'll get him some better stuff. But
well, it's Adam Savage who says it himself. Like, cosplayers are just let cosplayers do, especially as kids, teaches you so many skills. It teaches you, oh man, so many amazing things. I think especially when you're just inspired by a character, like Jeff, if you had to choose a character from anything that you would want to cosplay, like, who would it be?
I think visually, I think Sephiroth is one of those that jumps out, as a very like clear, like iconic character.
Yes.
Just like at first glance. That'd be kind of
Totally.
fun.
Oh my god. What a hot character. Yeah.
Right?
And what's funny is actually, you bring that up. I don't know if you guys watch Between the Sheets with the Critical Role thing. Matt Mercer actually said he actually talked about cosplaying Sephiroth.
Oh yeah.
And because he said he was like an overweight kid, he didn't have a lot of self-confidence.
Really?
He actually,
Yeah. I'm trying to picture that. That's hard to imagine.
Yeah. It's a really great interview where he talks about like, body dysmorphia and like, never being happy with yourself and having that
Know
lack
about
of
that
confidence. Yep. We all do really badly. But yeah, so he talked about how he loved cosplaying. He actually had a Sephiroth cosplay that he started going to the gym and he started working out. Not necessarily because he wanted to be healthier or be better, but he wanted to do justice to that Sephiroth character. So it's just like, that was such motivation. And I know I've been there a million times. like I was always inspired by characters to be like, I want to be fit so that I could do these characters justice.
Well, that's kind of part of the LA like movie lifestyle. Like, so actors, they get roles, they don't get a choice. Some of them, like when you look at the transformation like that Chris Pratt did to be Star-Lord.
Oh my god!
When you look at like what some of these actors will put themselves through for roles, like that's a big thing in Hollywood. So then when you have people in the cosplay scene that are kind of trying to duplicate what they're seeing in those films or what they're seeing, like they can sometimes push themselves really hard to try to get to that point, and some of it is almost not achievable. Like,
yeah, it really, it's crazy, especially here in LA. I mean, it's interesting. Like, I used to always have problems with body dysmorphia with myself, but it really came to a new level when I moved to LA, and it's just so many beautiful people here, and everybody is always striving to look their best. And there's the higher concentration of beautiful people because they're all here to like become the stars and stuff. So you start to compare yourself to them. So you're on this completely different level, and it goes for stunt stuff as well. Like, you go to a normal gym and work out, and it's all good and stuff. But I would have to go to stunt gyms and just try to train my stunt work and stuff. And sometimes walking into those places is almost way too intimidating and almost depressing when you're like, you start comparing yourself to these stunt people who have been training for years, and they can do 540 kickback flip razor, like they're doing these crazy things, and they just look amazing and they're fit, and you see how hard they're working. They make it look so easy, and you're like, oh god, I will never be like that. And that's something about, like, in LA you have that issue a lot where there's so many great people doing great things that you compare yourself, and it can be very depressing.
I could see that. I mean, but it's one of those things. I think there's a learned skill to recognize that as inspiring as opposed to oppressive. Like, because I definitely have struggled with that a lot, and I think when you're dealing with something that's your physical body, like, it's not something that's like a performance that you can do in front of a limited audience, like only so many people get to see my tabletop game, or if I draw something and I keep it in my room, nobody sees it. When it's your body, it's like, okay, everywhere I go, this is on display. If I'm making this costume, this is part of it. I have to look like this character. Or maybe you don't, maybe that's not in the rules, but I think internally you kind of have that thought, like, oh, I'm not a blonde person, I can't play a blonde character, or, maybe I'm a bit thick in the stomach, so I can't play these characters unless I'm Fat Thor, like, it's, it's like whatever these things are.
God bless Fat Thor. I can finally cosplay at a con now.
It's true. I love it.
So, but there was something that we had a mention in chat from Zach Meow. He said that he just bought the costume and he just crammed what he had into it, and I think that's what has become like the thing now is no matter what your body type is, whatever. If you want to cosplay something, just go do it. Like,
well, and that's what's so great is that the community of cosplayers are so welcoming and supportive. It's so rare. Actually, I don't know if you've even seen, like, if let's say there's a girl who a little offset and she's playing a Sailor Moon character or whatever, like, you never hear like, oh my gosh, she shouldn't be cosplaying that. You just hear like, oh my god, you look
That's
great.
good.
You're doing it. Yes, be you, do you, find those characters that speak to your soul.
Yeah, I think that's a new thing too, because like I remember, I mean, I've been going to cons since I was like a little dude, and like I remember hearing people like being pretty judgmental back in the day, the con goers.
Well,
but then in recent
I
years,
think with the influx of with these cons, we talk about the influx of new players into 5e.
yeah,
When you look at what the demographics, the people in that 5e player base are that are coming in, they're also the most accepting. They're also the most opening and welcome kind of people. So
yeah.
I think sometimes maybe 20 years ago, before that wave hit, it probably was a different scene in cosplay, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think there's been a big shift for the positive, like just culturally in general. Maybe not everywhere, but at a lot of these places like cons, or in the coasts and stuff, it seems like there is a big push to be more accepting of different people, to be more encouraging, to kind of minimize that internal like pressure people put on each other. It looks like Airlaser is saying that she's had some of those negative comments kind of said around people that she's been around.
I don't think it's kind of like anything else negative in the world. I don't think it ever dies completely. As much as we want it to, those things will never completely die. But I think there's a lot more positivity out there than there used to be.
And I think now it's frowned upon to be judgmental, whereas I think before that was like the standard,
Sure.
So thank God.
And that's kind of why I like to bring it back to D&D. That's why I love to play positive characters. I have this Loxodon barbarian. She's just like, it's funny because she's a barbarian, but she goes, well, hey guys, what's up? Like, everything's cool. She speaks like that. And like whenever anybody tries something, she's just like, or like they'll say something like, she'll just be like, oh, that's a really great job. Like, you guys are really doing great. I'm really feeling it, thanks. So she's like a super positive character. My other character, Penelope, of course, she's just all about the positivity and, really making friends with everyone and giving everyone the benefit of the doubt. It's something that I kind of do on purpose to like, inspire people to just be more like Penelope, like love people for who they are, give everybody that second chance, benefit of the doubt. It was so interesting because we were doing a signing at D&D Live, and we had a crowd of people coming through, and we are signing their books and stuff. And I just had one guy stop, and he's just like, because of, I want to thank you for playing Penelope, because my girlfriend had never played. She never wanted to play because she thought you had to pick these dark, brooding characters, these big, but you taught her that she could play a funny character, that she could play a lighthearted character. And he's just like, thank you for doing that, because now she loves playing. And I was just like, really, that hit me so hard. I was like, oh my God.
I could totally imagine. Yeah, because it is an interesting thing that we bring in, when you sit down at a table, everyone's picking a style or a flavor or, something they want to highlight with the character they make. Maybe they don't think about it overtly, but every character that you portray injects an element into the game. And I think a lot of people are going about ways to like highlight things that they want to see in a game, or just in their lives, and I think that's a really fascinating thing, that you have the power to kind of change the dynamic at your table just by the character you pick.
Yes. I love that. And it's interesting that the longer I play Penelope, the more I see her affecting my daily life, so like she's taught me a lot, and she's made me change my way of thinking, which I think is just like really cool.
Yeah, we've talked about that too. It's fascinating, like, because I don't know, I do this a lot with some of my characters, more so in the past than now, but I would pick characters that are very different from myself, or have a trait that I wanted to learn, or maybe it was something I don't like about myself, but I want to work through it. And then you come up with your character, you go into it, and you have these experiences, and then all of a sudden you're a little bit different. Like, I used to be super shy. Like, I would not talk to anybody, I had social anxiety, the whole thing. And I started playing characters that were social. Got my practice in, discovered it was easy, and then all of a sudden that's a learned skill that I now get to practice in real life. So
cool.
It's stuff like that. And I think, like you were saying before, having when we were talking about combat, like, or role playing or whatever, kind of setting the stage, making sure that people are able to be lifted up as they do things, get encouragement as they try to take risks, inject, dynamics and, just speaking or descriptions and these things. That really helps. It helps everyone kind of come up, get encouraged, and do more things.
Exactly, and then there's so many people that play D&D who are, they're introverts. They don't have a lot of confidence, and just getting to that table. I've played with people who have like just anxiety about even just playing around their friends. They don't want to do something wrong. So lifting them up every time that they make that effort is just like super powerful. And there's nothing better than seeing them leave the table so excited that they did something. It gives me chills.
Yeah, I don't know if people realize just how much of an impact they can have on other people at the table, or if you're doing a show, how much impact you may be having on your audience.
Sure.
Like,
yeah,
That's hard for us because we don't really know. We don't have any idea. Like,
I mean, we start to get a little bit of feedback here a few times now from some groups that are in the chat right now, actually talking about, how some of the things we've talked about on the show have kind of impacted their games. There was actually kind of an interesting topic they were bringing up about, learning lessons from other groups or our show or whatever, coming across something, realizing that they were making some mistakes at the start of their game, and then now they're in the middle and they're not sure how to change midstream, how to adopt these new changes because now it feels like it's out of character. Yeah. It's an interesting problem. Like, on one hand, you just want to say, well, just switch it on a dime, but, people want to be consistent,
I dealt with that in Heroes of the Veil really bad.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It was right around that time where that guy had said, like, thank you for playing such a lighthearted character. Well, at the time in the stream, something bad had happened to my character.
Oh, no.
She got sent to hell for like over a year, and everybody, she was dead, but nobody knew because a god impersonated her. It was a whole like drama.
Oh, man.
But it changed her, and like it was weird that I was very subtle about it, but like I was trying to give my character growth from the beginning, a nice arc. She was not brave, but she wanted to be a hero, and she was trying to figure out what that meant, and it was a very nice, wholesome arc. And then this thing happened, and she got sent to hell, and I'm like, okay, well, she has to change, it just, I have to play that as it should be played. And so Penelope had an emo phase where she like came back from hell, and she wasn't quite the same.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't like playing it. I really didn't. I kind of, especially, after that guy had made that note about it, and I was like, oh, I just want to go back to playing, but I have to complete this arc. I have to find a way to make the arc work, but also find Penelope again. So like, it was a hard thing to do, but
oh yeah,
now everything leveled out well.
And I think that's where a lot of times, like, even the most cheerful people in the world still have these things that happen to them, and where a lot of times, like I like to joke about the Deadpool Colossus speech, right? Like 5 moments, is what defines your heroes from your villains, right? So like your character's going to have those kind of moments happen. And it's kind of how you decide to have them bounce back or what to do about it that like really helps define who that character is, like, and solidify it. Like if you were always just got to be happy, like it wouldn't make the happy if you don't get to see the downshift occasionally, from people. It helps make them more grounded and real, I think. Like,
yeah, it brings out subtlety in the performance.
It brings out humanity in people. It's so funny. I was just talking to Jen Kretschmer about this yesterday when it was like we were talking about being on the show, and I was just like, I just like being positive, especially on social media. I don't really want, I want to be able to lift people up and stuff. And she goes, well, be careful because then you might lose your humanity. Like people want to see that you are human and that you struggle with things just like they do and stuff, and like it really hit me. She's like, it grounds you as a person to be like, hey, I'm just as human as you guys are. I have my problems, and they're similar to yours, and I can share that with you and connect with you that way. So
we got a bunch of people chatting away, and
we got a lot of talk in there
talking about some positive things about taking lessons from the show. That's thank you guys.
That was awesome.
Glad we can help.
Glad to have you here every week, and we hope we continue to help you with your craft. Whatever that is.
I mean, we originally
playing whatever.
We originally set off just to have an argument show where we just disagree with each other all the time.
Yeah, little secret here. I don't know if people know this or not, but we originally set out to do kind of like the sports show, like First Take sort of deal, where it's just me and Jeff arguing about D&D topics all the time.
Because we argue so much.
And then we found out that there's really not that many times we disagree.
Oh, no.
So we very quickly became, let's have guests come on here and talk about stuff. So in the intro where I slipped in, I ad-libbed it in there, by the way, that I'm always right, Jeff's wrong comment came because that's what it was going to be in the original show. And then
go to fight. Like,
just one more reason we need a new intro, but you know, it's
yeah,
funny.
No, I appreciate that though, Chad. Just knowing that, I mean, I'm not saying that we know everything or that we have, tons of great ideas or anything. But we have done a lot of things that we look at in retrospect and go like, God, that was terrible. We should have done it this way. Or like, oh man, we were 10 game sessions in and this was just a stupid decision. Like that has really wrecked the game and we don't know how to fix it. So like in retrospect, you look at it and you go, okay, let's have a conversation around the cars, the Midwestern goodbye, if you know what that is. 2 hours of, it's where you say goodbye for eternity.
Listen, people on the coast don't have time for this sort of crap. Only in the Midwest. Because here's the thing. When we would leave, home was like 5 minutes away. Like we almost walked there. We had vehicles, but it didn't matter. We could have walked home. So you would stand out at your car and just chat for another half hour about whatever it was you were supposed to not be doing anymore. And
the sun comes up.
Instead,
everyone's inching their way towards the cars through the conversation, but everyone's too polite to say they got to go.
Nothing you can do in a world, but you have to catch a bus, a train, nothing like that. Like you can't do that. It's.
So anyway, it was like that a lot though. We would get in these conversations outside, wandering to the cars, and then, before the sun's coming up, you're like, okay, well that's a good idea. I wish we had thought of that beforehand. And so we try to give that to the audience here, and and that's why I like bringing guests on, because everyone has their own experiences. They've had their own moments. They've experienced things that I haven't experienced or Dustin hasn't experienced. And it's that sort of thing that helps the audience a lot, bringing those different perspectives, getting just different ideas on the table. And, like you were saying, like with the characters, feeling that organicness, that life of their own, that, maybe you have a vision for a character, but then the character happens and lives and that's not what I was imagining, but okay, this is cool, or I don't like this character anymore. I hate this character. This character's mean, You're like, well, okay, well, what's going on with this character? What's the arc looking like? How is the world shaping them? Does the character reflect on that? Does the character want to be different? Do they want to change? Do they want the world to change them? And that's like the Lord of the Rings stuff, with, the Samwise and, having their conversation at the side of the Mountain Doom, and all that kind of stuff. So like, I really like that sort of storytelling, where the Hobbit comes out of the Shire and is changed, because I mean that's what an adventure is,
Yeah, wholeheartedly. I believe that around a table or on a stream, your character should have an arc. Mm-hmm. Whether the character has a goal to become different or not, like there needs to be change and growth in one direction or another. As players, like you're gonna love yourself for it. You want to have that dynamic change. That it'll bring more dynamic or like some more depth to your character, and you're gonna just enjoy it so much.
Mm-hmm. And it's important to realize that the other characters will impact your character. Like I know a lot of times, like you set off and you have like this concept in mind. You're like, oh, this is the box that I'm gonna be in, and then you contact the other players and you go, well, they're doing something very different. And I don't want to change my character, but you're at a table with a group of people that are all telling stories, and there's got to be some kind of mingling. There's got to be some adaptation, some change. And oh my God, that was super loud. Thank you, Air Laser, for the bits. About blew my head off. But
checks to be sponsored by Belltone here in a couple more weeks.
We'll hope that still works. But I think that's a really important thing for players too, is to again, this goes back to improv, like we were talking about, or dancing or whatever. Your partners at the table are giving you something, and they're offering new, ingredients, and it's time to pick those up, kind of integrate them inside the theme or the style that your character has, and then see what the character becomes.
I love that.
And
Yeah, it's been interesting. I know in our group, like
so strange.
because my character's such an a-hole.
Yes, yes, he
But,
is.
like,
What a prick.
and we do. We're not gonna have one this week because Clint's been called out for work stuff. So we're not gonna have an Unreal intro for our game this week. But every one of us takes a turn writing a intro for the next game that's done in the Unreal game engine, like a video game. And Clint's able to put all this together with his voodoo magic. It's fantastic.
Freaking
We haven't
amazing.
seen him. But it's like, it's been interesting because every single one of them, they've always mentioned my character. I have been mentioned in every single one of them thus far. And not necessarily always for the best, but
Rarely.
he's always mentioned. So it's always good though when you feel like you've done something to a point that like it's made that level of impact on like where the other characters are at in their mind space. So, you know, I was pretty excited that we made it through one entire round and he's kind of come up in all of them. So
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that's something groups do in general, or if it's just something we're kind of getting into now. But having those reflections, you know, like moments of like, what does my character think of these other people? What does my character think of what's happening in the plot? You know, and not just like as a player, like having in the back of your head, but like explicitly saying like, okay, the character has been going through a lot. What do they think?
Oh.
You know, maybe sharing that.
you guys talk a lot on your show with your, like, between games, like, do you guys cross communicate about what's going on?
Yeah, not like a ton, but like, you know, before games and mostly after games, we'll have like a debrief of like, what the heck just happened, and we'll talk about a little bit about what their characters were thinking when that was happening, or why we made the choices we made for that episode. And sometimes through emails we'll go back and forth and just be like, well, this is changed my character, so just be aware. So I love it though, it's great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like, I mean, that's the sort of stuff I've been digging a lot, is the retrospect, going through, seeing how things are going, checking in with the groups, seeing what, like, that's the other thing that's interesting, is listening to other people break down what the plot was. Like, I'll have an image of what's happening and I'll say it and they're like, really? I don't think it's that at all. I have this other idea. And you're like, what game? Are you playing the same game as me?
I love it.
So
Yeah, when that happens, I start worrying that I'm like, man, have I been like spacing out too much?
Right.
Like, now that we're playing at a computer and I've got options for what's on all my screens, like, did I get caught snoozing somewhere? Like, I have to go back. Luckily, with the stream game, I can go back rewatch the episode and see if I missed something. But
We've got another question here for Hope. Watch Devin Die wants to know, what sort of D&D goals do you have for the future? Apparently it moved while I was reading. Make cosplay, host a streaming game, write a module. Like, do you have any future things you're working on?
Yeah, I'm actually writing a homebrew game that I hope to unveil in January, just for writing table friends. And it's basically every single one of my characters will be playing a lost boy, and
Nice.
it's based off of a book called The Child Thief.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys have ever read it, but it's basically it's almost like a grim version of I was gonna say Harry Potter. No, Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Where Peter actually comes to the real world and recruits or steals lost boys and recruits them for his army, and then he's training them and you know, honing them in as a huge army to take on the pirates and stuff. But it kind of turns out that Peter's the bad guy.
That is
You know,
an
but
interesting take.
It's a really interesting story, but I thought it would make a really great setting as a campaign, and all the people would be playing Lost Boys, but you know, you can play anything still. You can play, you know, a druid fighter. It's all, but you're kind of more just like a kid version of it. I found it really appealing.
Oh yeah. Is it overtly going to be Peter Pan and Neverland, or is it going to be like a subtle kind of hidden theme, or?
It's going to be a lot more subtle. In the book, they don't even call it Neverland; they call it Avalon. There's a lot more dark tones to it. The forest is actually a lot more dangerous. So it's gonna be a weird mix between like that dark subtleness and hook. I kind of just want it to be like,
yeah, a little fun and cheeky.
a
Yeah.
little fun and cheeky at times, and pulling from the magical and the mysticalness of
Get to yell bangarang at least once.
Roofy. Oh. And, because he's the best character ever.
Did you see the reunion photos for that not long ago?
Mm.
Weren't those the best?
He looks so great. I love it.
Oh,
But yeah,
she's
so
back.
that's like my first campaign that I'm writing for 5e, and I'm really excited because I haven't DM'd since 5e, so this will be really exciting, and hopefully a small step towards. I do have an idea that I really want to do for streaming.
Ooh.
I don't know how much I'll say about it, but it does have to do a lot with it's going to be a pretty extensive setup where it's probably already been done before, but I just really want to do it where you have characters at a table playing, but while they are saying things that are happening and doing things, you have their corresponding characters on a stage who then have to improv everything that the players are doing and saying, and just we'll have tons of props and stuff and battles, but it'll be totally cheesy, super fun, and I really have a dream of making that stream like just a reality one day. We'll see.
I will say, with the technology you have at your fingertips, with all the mocap stuff and all the stunt people, holy shit, that could be cool. Like that sounds like a logistical nightmare that anyone else that didn't have that studio and and like everything that you have at your disposal, which is, man, I'm so envious. I want to see this. That sounds so freaking cool.
I think it just sounds really funny and really entertaining, and again, that's all I'm about, is just fun entertainment, just really enjoyable things to watch. So I really think it could be super funny.
That's so cool. Well, we are coming into our 2 hours already. That's snuck in there. It seems to do that a lot. I get in these really fun conversations. Dustin and I get talking to people, and we look down the clock, and it's that time. So this is a good point, I guess. We've already talked a little bit about some things that may be brewing in the future. Is there anything else you'd like to plug?
Gosh, I have to pull up my phone for this, but I think I'm allowed to talk. Well, yeah, of course I'm allowed to talk about it. But I will be on a live charity stream this Saturday with Team Phoenix.
Nice.
I gotta find the information for it because I don't know much about it. She literally just hit me up like last week. Here it is. Celebrity Charity 20.
Celebrity Charity 20.
Yeah, it's like spelled. I don't know if I'll ever be
followed. Charity 20.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would not have guessed that. So that's good.
Yeah. So Saturday, December 14th, starts at like 10 a.m. I don't know what time my game is. Gosh, I'm the worst at plugging myself. Saturday. It'll be a thing. I'm sure you'll hear about it sometime.
Perfect.
I'm the best. Other than that,
I'll find it on social media. I'll get it out there for you.
We'll plug it like crazy.
I appreciate it. I'm really excited because I don't know if it's going to be Christmas themed, but I really hope it is. She had mentioned it's like a Christmas charity event, which I was like, oh, that'd be so fun. I always loved theme one shots and stuff. So, but yeah, other than that, it's just D&D Beyond Heroes every Wednesday from 2 to 4 p.m. On their Twitch stream or their Twitch channel.
Oh yeah, and what time zone is that?
Oh yes, it's 2 to 4 PST, so that's on the Pacific.
Right. Wow, that is early in the afternoon. All right.
It is. It's right in the middle of my work day.
Perfect. So definitely check that out though, because it's really cool stuff. You see some really, really cool people involved in that, and
it's such a wonderful group. It really is. And with D&D Beyond Heroes now, you get to choose the episode. Everyone votes. You guys, you as the audience gets to choose what adventure we go and do. And
oh wow.
A natural 20 on our show, you get a chance to win a legendary bundle, which I didn't realize was like over $650 worth of
holy
items.
Yeah, what?
That's a lot. I was looking at the bundles on your last episode. They were pretty impressive. So
wow, okay, I gotta figure this one out. Is Mike Merle still involved?
He is not. He had to step away from the show because he was just way too busy.
I imagine.
Todd Kenrick stepped in as the DM, and it's just been
Todd's great.
It's been a ride. He is so creative. I just, every time we end an episode, I'm like, Todd, how are you going to top yourself? How are you going to get more fantastical than what you just did? He's just like, oh, we're just getting started.
That's so good. Well, definitely check that out, audience, because that's a good one there. I've definitely caught a few things. We'll plug stuff like crazy. Let's see what else we got in here. I'll see if there's any more questions from the audience, but looks like that may be a no. Dustin, where can we find you, and what's going on with you these days?
Oh man, not a whole lot now.
Holidays.
We're in the holiday season, so of course everything comes to a grinding halt. I think all of my episodes of Terra and Treefell are now up on YouTube. Is that right, Jeff? Did you get 5 up there today?
5 will be launched. It's already up, but it'll be going live tomorrow. Yeah.
It'll be released tomorrow? Okay,
Yep.
So as of tomorrow, you go onto our YouTube. That's Tabletop to Keyboard, all spelled out with the 2 in the middle there. You can find all 5 current episodes of Terra and Treefell, my Zweihander horror-based game that I'm currently playing. We are on hiatus until January 2nd for the holiday, so not because we couldn't play on the 19th, which was our regularly scheduled day. There's this little movie called Star Wars coming out, and I'm going to be sitting in a theater that night, so sorry, players. Priorities, sorry. You have to wait till January to get into the next game session. So, but that gives everyone a lot of time to get caught up on YouTube with now that Jeff has done a great job of getting them edited and put up there for me. You can go back to the beginning if you haven't watched an episode yet, and they're only like 4 hours a piece, right? 3 hours, something like that. So you got
2 to 4.
Got some time now to get
window.
through them to get caught up if you want to keep up with that. We have Everstorm this Saturday, and then a week again. 2 back-to-back game sessions. So
This
the
never
Saturday,
happens.
it's rare that we play back-to-back weeks, but with the holidays again, this is where things get screwed up. So we play the next 2 Saturdays in a row. Next Monday we're back here again, and our guest is it Travis Leahy? Am I saying that right?
That is correct.
Travis Leahy will be our guest next week, and then the 23rd, the week after that Monday,
Sorry, I forgot that I'm running the stream like a noob.
Do that when you run the stream, Jeff.
I did the thing.
I was looking at it. I was on it. So we'll be, and then 2 weeks, the 23rd, it might be me and Levi here. Jeff won't be here.
Yep,
I don't
I'll
know
be in
if he'll
Florida.
Be here to run the show or not. I haven't got a confirm from him. So we are looking to put together a show for the 23rd, right before Christmas. So we'll get it all hammered out before then. And that'll bring us into a new year, pretty much, I think.
It's fantastic. Before we slip away from here, apparently Zach Meow wanted Hope to mention some
Yes.
Xmas music.
Oh my God, Zach! Thank you so much for tuning in. So Zach had a music giveaway. He's a composer, an amazing composer, and he just does this giveaway, like, oh, you have to, say something in this tweet and like this tweet and stuff. And I did it, and like there were like hundreds of people who did it, and I got picked. I was like a random selection. I was like, no way. So what you got to do was he wrote a theme. He's like, whatever you guys want. You could have a theme to your game or a theme to your character. I'm like, well, I have this character named Penelope that I would love a theme for. And he actually wrote a whole theme, and it's so cute and gorgeous, and it really speaks to her character. And you guys, he's amazing. So he's doing another giveaway on Twitter. So you got to go. It's an
Awesome.
Xmas music giveaway. Check him out, Zach Meow.
That's awesome.
All right, so
Hey,
it's Zach Meow on there?
Hey, what is your Twitter handle, Zach? Go ahead and type it in chat if you can.
We'll get that out there and make sure people can find it.
Yeah, we'll make sure we get out there for you.
And then from my side of things, as Dustin mentioned, I've been doing a lot of the YouTube stuff. So you can find all of the past episodes of the Wisdom Check, if you missed any, on that channel that we talked about. So the tabletop, the number 2 keyboard, all spelled out. And you'll also find, as you said, the Terra and the Treefell. We'll keep that going. And we are working on getting the Everstorm stuff going. So if you're wanting to get into our homebrew 5th edition game, we've got a lot of the episodes. Hopefully we can get most of them. And then we'll get those all up, and you'll have a back catalog of what are we on, 25, 30 episodes, something like that. So there's a lot of content over there on the YouTubes.
I hear a lot about this in the Discord, and I had no idea what they were, but now I know.
Yeah, it's all of our various content. We actually have. I'm not supposed to talk about all this yet, but we have other new content coming out.
There it goes.
January. I have been calling it this, but it's not technically official. But I've been considering January to be the beginning of season 2 for Tabletop to Keyboard. I don't have the kind of authority to do this. I just say shit, and then I make everyone else go along with it. But I've been officially just declaring just season 2 starts in January. We're getting some new intros. There may be some new shows coming to the stream. You might see a bunch of new stuff down the pipe. So keep a lookout for that.
And if you want to keep tuned in, you want to know what's going on, want to talk with everybody that's here. past guests, past fans, everything. We have a Discord. Go check it out. We'll drop the link in the chat here.
It's
hopefully
been dropped.
Oh, perfect. And so go in there, join up, and bring what you got. Bring your specific brand of geekdom. We enjoy having you. So that about wraps us up, I think. And
quick shout out to our stream team also.
Oh yes.
Turkey from the Grouch Couch put together a fantastic graphic. It is up in our Discord. If I haven't, I'm going to put it down in our panel for sure. But Air Laser, the Liching Hour, they've been here in our chat pretty much the whole time.
Sure have. Thank you guys.
And again, the guys at the Grouch Couch, it's Fishy, Turk, Bo, the rest of the guys out there, they do a fantastic job. Drunks and Dragons every Sunday is way fun. You can't miss it.
It's a party for sure. Lots of fan interaction.
They do so much good stuff out there, and you can catch someone on the stream team pretty much every night of the week. So they do a great job of shouting us out and helping rep us. So
absolutely,
we make sure we
right back at you,
back at them. So
perfect. Thank you guys. Appreciate the audience coming out and keeping us company, and we'll see you next Monday. Thank you, Hope.
Yep. See you next week.
Much appreciated.